Hi, this is Myra with Boutique Paint. We're working on spring or Easter decor today. And I got these little bunnies and I got these little eggs from the dollar store. And the bunnies came in an 8-pack and the eggs came in a 6-pack. And we're going to decoupage them today. So I'm going to start out, I put a toothpick in the bottom of this just so you don't have to handle it quite so much. And I'm just going to add a little paint to this real quick. And the first ones I did not paint. But it occurred to me if there's any little spots that are missing, maybe some paper on them or napkin, depending on what you use. I'm trying to water down my paint a little bit because it's kind of thick. This way, it would, if there's any bare spots, it would at least have paint on it instead of white foam showing through. So I'm just going to cover the whole thing. You can also cover your toothpicks or your, I also am going to use the barbecue skewers also in this project. So you could paint those also. All right. So I have a dried one in green over here. So I'm just going to grab it so that we can get started while that one's drying. And well, maybe I want to do a bunny too. Let's do a bunny also. I haven't done the bunny yet. This should be fun. So remember that depending on the paper or the napkin that you use, if you don't want a color coming through, because it will change the coloring of the project that you're working on, usually, unless it's like a really dark colored tissue or dark colored napkin. So if you don't want that, you can just paint them white. I'm also painting them white just to, foam's a tricky thing to work with, this type of foam. You can also get, you know, the decoupage, paper mache eggs, and you might be able to get bunnies, but since this was dollar store, you can't go wrong with the price at least. So, I'm thinking with the paint, it might also help with just adhesion. All right, I'll let that little guy dry now. Put that aside. So I'm going to use napkins for this project. And I got these cute little napkins. And I got this because the design is kind of fits the size of the egg as far as scale. The first thing you want to do with napkins, whenever you're decoupaging, they usually almost, I don't know any napkins that don't do this, but as soon as you say that, of course, they prove you wrong. And this is the hardest part of this project, I'm telling you, is separating. There's a sheet, there's a backing to this napkin. Sometimes it's hard to get it started. But you want to separate it. Pull that guy off. And next what you want to do is you just want to cut up some little pieces. And I've buried my scissors here. So if you'd like to use like whatever, maybe centerpiece, that's being the bunny in this, I'm going to cut kind of close to him. Then I'm going to set him aside. And he will be the last thing on this. Ooh, cut his little nose off. That's not okay. Luckily, Mod Podge is fairly forgiving. So I'm just going to pretend I didn't do that because I can just glue it down. Now, this part of the napkin has some little bumps. You can still use it, but it will show differently when you put it on there. Let me see if I can find an example, like right there. You can see that it's just a little different. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut some pieces. Let's see, let's go to this side. I'm just going to cut some pieces. I'm going to kind of go in the center, and I'm going to cut some of these flowers. Just remember, you know, kind of the egg from here, because it's rounded, it'll curve up a little bit to about here. So just kind of eyeball it so it can cover the whole egg. Not hugely important, because there, of course, we're doing this kind of in strips. So if you miss a spot, it's okay. You can cover it up. So I'm just going to make a couple of these across here. Put that aside so I have some room. Let's see, that's kind of big. And you don't have to worry about the folds in the paper. And then you'll probably want some smaller pieces. I think I want some of these yellow flowers. Those are cute. I'm going to leave that bunny so that he can be used for something else. And then pieces like this is good to have, just to do some fill-in, just in case. So I'll cut that so it's not such a weird shape. And then we'll get started. Now, the toothpick's in there so that it was easy to paint, but it's also so it's easy to handle as far as the Mod Podge. I'm going to go ahead and take that out right now, though, and I'm going to start this like this. Let's see if that goes all the way to the top. Pretty close. So when you start with I'm using DIY's liquid patina today and not Mod Podge. I keep saying Mod Podge. But when you're doing any sort of decoupage, once you start the process and your fingers get on it, what can happen, I'll show you here, is the paper will pull off. And I'll show you how to fix that though. But in the meantime, if you can avoid that, that's always a good thing. So I'm just going to start putting on the liquid patina on one side. I'm going to get it nice and covered. And then we'll take, this was my first piece. Whoop, if I can pick it up, goodness. I'm going to set it down on there. And I'm going to roll it to the bottom. And we're going to take the brush and just brush over the top and kind of push down the paper. In the 80s, decoupage was in big time. We decoupaged everything. Garbage cans, I mean, absolutely everything. And it's back in now, and you can use like I said, the napkins, which is what I'm using, or you can use tissue paper. And it's a little bit more sophisticated though now, which is nice. So you're just painting and pushing down with the brush. And you want to be liberal with your product. Just using the brush to push. All right. Now go ahead. I'm going to put this on the other side so I stop reaching across. Put some more on the base of this. Color actually isn't coming through quite as much as I thought it would. It does make it a little darker, but not bad. Take this one, Let's see. Start it right at the toothpick there. And same thing here. Just painting and pushing that tissue down, or that napkin down. Goodness, screwing up my words right and left. I usually do, but not this bad. And you can see right there, I've got a little piece there that is showing the green of the paint. Get in there. Now I'm going to go back. Where's one of our little pieces? This will be a good piece. Actually, either one of those pieces would be good, but I'll just tap it right on there. There we go. Now we have this side. And where's our bunny? Will he fit there and cover that up? Probably not. Probably should have left a little extra for him. So we're going to use, we don't need that much to cover that up. So I'm just going to cut something like that. That's not big enough either. Maybe. Okay. And this is a great project you can do with little ones. Just make sure you have newspaper down. And I have this piece of throwaway styrofoam that I keep around just for projects like this where you're needing to dry something. You can't just lay it down. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I want my bunny on there. So I'm just gonna set him down on top. Gotta be careful of that nose. I don't want to lose that nose because I cut it by accident. I'm having to steady, and I'm just kind of steadying it with my finger so I won't roll too much. So there's a possibility that my finger might pull some of the napkin off when I move my hand. But I think he looks pretty good. I'm also falling off my toothpick. Push that down a little bit. And then if you can, if your fingers get stuck, try to kind of roll it and see if that keeps it from pulling up. Pretty cute. Okay, we're going to set him in there to dry. Our bunny's not quite dry yet, but I will show you, if you have a repair to make, go ahead and wait for it to dry. So we've got this little spot, and I could cut out a piece with the rabbit's ear in the blue, but I think I'm just going to take this little blue piece here. Is that big enough? It looks pretty close to it. Cut off the lavender, and then I'm just, he's dry already, so I'm just gonna re-glue, set that piece on there, and at the top. I did need to scoot it over a smidge, but and then we'll set him to dry. I'm going to stop for a second and blow dry this little bunny. You can't, I don't suggest that you use a blow dryer to dry this. What happens is while it's drying, it still could pull up. So if you use the hairdryer and it catches an edge, it will pull it off. And that's kind of defeating the purpose. So just, it's one of those things you have to be a little bit more patient with. Okay, so he's dry, and I'm using DIY paint for these as my paint. So this bunny's going to be a little bit more interesting, and I didn't practice on him yet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a bunch of smaller, oh, I just cut that butterfly in half. Shoot. Poor butterfly. So I'm just going to cut these in a little bit smaller pieces. So as you could see, I added a second toothpick, which really stabilized me being able to not have him spin while I was painting on him. As far as, you know, extra curves and stuff like this, the nice thing about using napkins or tissue paper is because it's thin, it will, you know, roll over the curves. Even though you're putting, you know, there's like a curve here, it'll still tuck in there nicely, especially once you start getting it moist. So it goes into those little spots really nicely. So we're going to need to let that dry. And we'll put him here with both of his toothpicks still in him. And we're going to wait for these guys to dry, and then we'll probably paint our toothpicks so that they don't show up quite so obviously. And once they dry, you may need to go over a spot or two just to get them to lay down a little bit better. This guy's almost completely dry, and I can see just a smidge there. Not a biggie, but you can just go over it and just push it down with your brush. So for the most part, these are dry, and you can see that they lighten up a little bit when they are dry. There's just a few spots where it's still a little bit wet. I'm going to paint one of the skewers, and these might be at the dollar store too. I just happen to have some, so I just grabbed them out of my kitchen, and I've cut a bad paintbrush here, but I'm just gonna paint this entire stick. Then I'm gonna lay it across a lid, a plastic container lid. I always save when my family gets Chinese food I always save the containers. We're lucky enough that the place we go uses some really nice containers. So I always keep them, rinse them out, and keep using them. So we'll let that dry. In the meantime, it seems like we should do a little bit of adding to a little embellishing of these little guys. So I was thinking maybe a ribbon around the bunny. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the second toothpick out of him. And I just, since he's still a little damp, I was able just to push down and the paper covers up the hole. So I was thinking maybe this ribbon here, it's a little thick. We'll see here. Cut it a piece off. You have some little flowers that might be cute too. Some small ones. I'm not sure that's long enough to do a bow. We'll see. Probably not. Okay, then I'm just going to tie it in a knot then for that one. That one's not too bad there. If you wanted to, you could take a pin and just kind of put an eye on there too. The reason why I thought of that is that almost looks like one there. And then I think on the eggs, I will use some twine. I get this from the dollar store also. And it is a mess, obviously. But just kind of, let's see, I want that in the front. So I'm going to do that. And he is wet still. We're going to just keep moving forward here. Try to untangle this a little bit. Oh my goodness, what a mess. Just do a little bow here in the middle. That. And then the idea behind this is, I'm going to move that because that's not in the right good position, is you can either put them in a floral arrangement for Easter or spring. I have my little plant here that I managed not to kill it quite yet. I'm really good at killing plants, and this little guy for some reason has stuck with me. But and just put them in a floral arrangement, or you could put it in an Easter basket, whatever. You could even, you know, get some moss and cover something like that, and then put these in at different levels. So the longer plant stake is, or longer skewer would be good if you want it sticking up, or if you want different heights in your arrangement, or whatever you're using it for. I really like the bunny. I do like the bunny with more blue around him in this particular case. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put the, if I can unravel this, maybe I'll use this. This is pretty. This is just seam bias tape, or ribbon. Seam binding ribbon? Yeah, that's it. Wants to walk away from me. Actually, maybe I'll just put it down here on the, let's see what that looks like, down around the base of this. It's quite cold out here in my work shed, and my fingers do not want to work well today. So yeah, see, that's very sweet. Except my same thing, my toothpick's not in the right spot. And kind of get it in there too. And then you can also put a little dab of glue on that toothpick just to keep it there. Right, pretty cute. So if you have any questions about any of the products I used today, you can go to our website at www.boutiquepaint.com. And thank you so much for joining me. Bye.